Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Meltdown Abroad. As you know, for our summer format, we're putting the questions into your hands, so we'll be answering some more of your parenting dilemmas.
Let's see what we have today. We have my preschool child always has his fingers in his mouth. Is this normal? And how can I help him to get his fingers out of his mouth all the time? Well, we can definitely talk about why this might be happening. There's certainly a couple of things that pop up for me about why that might be going on. Are there some things that struck you about that?
Well, I would want to know why he's putting his finger in his mouth, if it's more self-soothing.
Yeah.
Or is it just like a habit that he's picked up for comfort?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it felt certainly like there is some form of self-soothing that's going on. So it's serving a purpose. And that might be because there's a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of nerves, or in the same way that we might carry a stuffed animal with us or use a blanket, it's suck your thumb. It's very similar to that in terms of the purpose that it serves. Right?
Yeah. What I'm also wondering is he doing it in every environment, or is this just happening at certain times of the day?
This is one of the best questions to ask yourself about any of these kinds of things, which is it always happening right before bedtime, right? Is it always happening on the way to school? Is it always happening when we're exhausted at the end of the day? Is it happening when we're doing new things? Because that tells you a little bit more information about the purpose that it's serving.
Yeah. For me, if it's happening all across the day, then I'm going to think that it's something more sensory related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if it's happening either in advance of things that are a little bit tricky, then that's probably a sort of I'm soothing myself when I'm feeling a little bit more anxious. And also kids can do some of these self-soothing behaviors, and they can engage in them when they are a little bit tired as well. Oh, yeah. So that would be like right before bed, in the car ride on the way home from school, if that's how you get home. Those types of times would be ones where they're probably a little bit tired and doing a little bit more of that kind of self-soothing behavior. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. So what kind of questions would we be asking to figure out what could be happening here?
Yeah, so certainly like the first one that pops up is what you mentioned, which is around the timing when it's happening. Something else that I would ask is if when you're asking this question, is it because you're concerned about is it because of some of the sanitary things around, because kids put their hands everywhere? If that's one of the concerns about this type of self-soothing, if you're concerned about it because you feel like it's happening more than it was before, or in certain contexts, and you're wondering sort of how to unpack that would be another question that I would ask. And also, if it's happening all the time, then we might look also at just what some of their other responses to sensory stimuli are, right? If they tend to seek out certain things that are sort of oral, you can tell if they're sort of chewing on straws or toys, or if they are also sort of sucking on the top of their shirt. Those kinds of things kids can be doing as well. Like, is it only on its own, or are there other
patterns that you're seeing
exactly
that could be relatable? And for me, I would probably want to know what's happening before it's starting. Because like we said earlier, that gives us a lot of information when we can spot the patterns. So is it something, like we said, is it more soothing, or is it more anxiety-based, or is it more sensory-based? So is there a pattern of maybe when they're told to do something and they're avoiding the situation, they will sit in comfort? Or is it a matter of, does it feel spontaneous to you, like out of nowhere, which it typically shouldn't if you're already noticing that it's happening all the time. But there could be some clues to tell us what's happening before the behavior to help drive how we would find strategies for it, especially from a sensory perspective as well. And just going back to the second part of the question, which asks, how can I help them stop it? I would definitely want to know why you want to stop it as well. I know hands in the mouth, if it's not typically dental related, if it's not impacting like shifting their teeth or causing anything gum and teeth related, I will usually allow the behavior to happen until we can find the alternative, but it's not something that we want to stop immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we can always look at with, if you're worried about the sort of sanitary piece or some of the other things, and we want to find a replacement. Versus what happens if we remove something that's self-soothing without there being an easy alternative, as some other behaviors tend to arise. But I do understand too that kids touch all sorts of things, and so regularly having their hands in their mouth, depending on how they're spending their time, could maybe not be ideal, right?
It can also build their immune system.
It can also build their immune system, and kids do it anyway. I mean,
they're going to do it.
So some level of this exposure will happen anyway. But yeah, we could look at a few other things if we feel like it's really time for them to be shifting what they're doing. Then we could look at maybe certain times of day where we're just practicing using a different tool that is also soothing.
Because I would ask what age, but they're preschool age. So for me, that's an appropriate age to not rush the process too much. It's okay for the kids to have their hands in their mouth at this age.
Yeah. Whereas like if they're 7 or 8, we would recommend that they're wearing something or using something that would allow them to engage in a similar self-soothing behavior, but in a more socially appropriate way. Yeah. But at 5, there'll probably be a lot of other kids that have their hands in their mouths too.
But we can talk about the strategies as you're bringing some up for sure.
Yeah.
So if a child if I'm thinking of it from a sensory perspective and we're trying to reduce the behaviors, I would start introducing jewelry.
Yeah.
So
that's for people who don't know.
It's wearable, like chewy devices.
Yeah, they're made out of silicone. There's Lego ones and dinosaurs and cool different designs. There's stuff for girls too that's very cute. And
you can have the necklace versions. You can have them in bracelet forms. You can have them in ring forms, hence jewelry.
Yeah, exactly.
Chewable jewelry.
Yeah.
But I would start introducing that to them because, again, not that it helps the hygiene part of it, because they do tend to end up in places that we don't want them to end up. But it just gets them away from the finger, because part of the hygiene is spreading germs as well. So if we have our hands in our mouth and we're touching everything else, that's not safe for everyone in the environment.
Though it's also, I mean, at 5, we all know that kids are not extremely sanitary. They're touching lots of things. They are not washing their hands enough. This is like a very normal part of the deal. It's okay.
No.
Yeah.
It is. It's definitely okay. But I would start exploring that to see if they gravitate towards something like that, because then it will tell me a little bit more information. So having the hands in the mouth, this didn't give me a lot of description, but we are assuming that they're sucking.
Yeah.
And so sucking is waking up or activating our proprioception, which means force. When force is applied to the body, it helps them soothe and helps them to regulate. So if I see that they gravitate towards actually chewing and they're regulating faster from it, then we can move away from oral stimulation as well. And we can possibly move into just giving them heavy work. So having them have moments where they're applying force through pushing, pulling activities, having like a weighted blanket or a weighted lap pad, a weighted toy, stuffy that they can bring around with them, because that's going to add that force that their body might be craving.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have like a little wagon, or if they have a sibling and they can push them on their bike, where they're doing a little bit of that heavy work, can help to meet some of those needs.
But if I see a kid that's not responding to the chewing, then I would go into texture and see if they do prefer the more tactile stimulation, because then having the hand in the mouth, the gum area, maybe they're not sucking, it's soothing for their gum, like the feeling of their gum in their mouth. And so now I know that I can add or try to replicate what that feeling might look like. Maybe we have warm bottles because then the mouth is warm, or we just have that silicone-based texture that can almost replicate the gum, or we will go into the fuzzies, like anything that's warm and snuggly, and try that with them. And then that will also give me information on whether they like compression, because then I can also give them tighter clothing, because that can activate similar sensory parts of our bodies and be regulating as well.
Yeah, and sometimes you can even have a combination of some sensory needs and some anxiety going on at the same time, and in which case all of these tools are still equally relevant, right? They're still, and then it would be looking at some of those patterns around when certain things are going on.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing. Like I would have to know, is it social anxiety based? Because then if it's social anxiety based, we're pairing using tools, but we're also reframing what's going on in the social situation.
Yeah, exactly. And helping them with the anxiety piece at the same time. So they're building some tools for having those feelings when they go into a new social situation. They also might be practicing some of those more awkward moments, like if you're trying to join in, that can be really hard for kids to do. A lot of the time they come on like way too strong, or they start talking about something that nobody's talking about. And so how do I enter a group of people? Maybe say something about what they're already talking about, or observe for a few seconds first so I understand what they're talking about first, and kind of how can I join in a way that feels okay and where I tend to be a little bit more easily accepted.
Yeah. Well, as always, guys, we always recommend that this is a community. If you have strategies that we haven't discussed, please put them in the comments below. This is a community.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear from you. And if you have strategies, those all really help other parents. If you have questions, please send them to us. We would be really happy to continue to answer them live.
Yes. Please send your questions to us. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, please. If this can help somebody else, we want it to get to them. We want it to reach to them. But until next time,
we'll see you soon.
Stay tuned. Bye.